Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
The year was 1950. The intellectual landscape of economics, while possessing established pillars of theory, felt a disquieting absence. A young scholar, Armen Alchian, then teaching at the University of California, Los Angeles, dared to challenge the prevailing assumptions that governed the field. His seminal work, Uncertainty, Evolution, and Economic Theory, published in the Journal of Political Economy, introduce a revolutionary perspective on how economic actors navigate a world profoundly shaped by uncertainty. This essay will explore the genesis of Alchian's ideas, the core tenets of his theory, its immediate and lasting impact, its reception, the intellectual lineage it both inherited from and contributed to the prevailing economic thought of the time, particularly within the neoclassical paradigm, leaned heavily on the assumption of perfect knowledge and rational decision-making. Firms were generally viewed as optimizing entities, operating with complete information about markets, costs, and consumer preferences. This facilitated elegant mathematical models and predictive power, yet it suffered a crucial failing. It poorly captured the messy reality of markets, where information is incomplete, futures are unpredictable, and even the most astute decisions can lead to failure. The seminal work of Frank Knight, particularly his 1921 book Risk, Uncertainty and Profit, served as a crucial precursor. Knight distinguished between risk, where probabilities could be assigned, and uncertainty, where they could not. Alchian, however, sought to build a formal economic theory explicitly addressing the implications of this pervasive uncertainty, developing a framework to explain firm behavior in the absence of the omniscience posited by his contemporaries. The challenge was to explain how firms, operating in an environment plagued by uncertainty, could survive, thrive, and even evolve. Alchian's genius lay in his application of Darwinian principles to economic phenomena. He proposed that the economic system, under conditions of uncertainty, functions as an evolutionary process. The market serves as a selection mechanism. There are winners and losers. Firms are viewed as attempting to maximize profits. They are assumed to be striving for survival. They do not necessarily make the optimal decisions that perfect rationality would dictate. Their success is determined by the environment. It is not necessarily guided by their own foresight. Alchian's model posits that firms that inadvertently adopt practices that lead to higher rates of return, whether by design or by chance, will prosper. They will grow relative to their less successful competitors. Their behaviors will be more likely to be copied. This process is analogous to natural selection in biology. Alchian posited that success in the market is not necessarily the outcome of conscious planning, but rather the result of a selection process. Some practices, due to chance, will prove more profitable than others. These advantageous practices will persist and spread. Other practices will lead to failure. These practices will disappear. This dynamic, evolutionary process, argued, drives the overall efficiency of the market. The core of Alchian's argument hinged on several key concepts. First, the concept of imitation. Successful practices, whether strategies or ways of organizing, are copied by other firms. Secondly, he emphasized the importance of randomness. Firms, due to the inherent uncertainty they face, experiment. They might adopt various practices. Some will be more successful, others will fail. These experiments are, in effect, random searches in a space of potential strategies. Finally, Alchian argued that profit maximization is not necessarily an ex-ante objective, that is, planned from the start. The competitive environment ensures that the firms that happen to behave as if they're maximizing profits will survive. The immediate impact of Alchian's work was nothing short of transformational. Its rejection of perfect rationality and its embrace of evolutionary principles opened up entirely new avenues of research in economics. It provided a theoretical foundation for understanding a range of phenomena that challenged the neoclassical model. These phenomena included the persistence of inefficient practices, the role of luck in firm success, and the nature of organizational structure. The paper did much to inspire the development of the behavioral theory of the firm. It served as a crucial building block for later theories of organizational behavior. The paper inspired scholars well beyond the narrow confines of economic theory. It quickly gained traction within the nascent field of industrial organization. It provided an explanation for the observed diversity of firms and market structures. The paper highlighted how markets can act as adaptive systems. That is, they evolve and change in response to uncertain environments. This perspective offered a more nuanced view of competition than the static equilibrium models of the day. The paper's emphasis on uncertainty also spurred work on the economics of information. This was, at the time, a developing area of study. It addressed how individuals and firms deal with incomplete knowledge. The paper's influence is seen in the study of property rights, agency theory, and the economics of contracts. It has also proved surprisingly influential in management science and strategy. The reception to Alchian's article, while initially met with some resistance within the mainstream of economics, was ultimately highly influential. Critics argued that the model did not provide an adequate basis for normative policy recommendations. A key question concerned whether evolutionary processes could lead to the best outcomes. Some scholars voiced concerns that the emphasis on chance led to a denial of the role of managerial skill and deliberate strategy. Despite these criticisms, the paper's strengths were undeniable. It offered a compelling explanation for the seemingly counterintuitive empirical observations that challenged the neoclassical models. It inspired several revisions and extensions as theorists refined and built upon Alchian's framework. Among these key developments was the recognition that evolutionary processes could be influenced by factors like firm size, industry concentration, and the nature of technological change. Alchian's work did not spring forth in a vacuum. It drew heavily from a rich intellectual heritage. He built upon the work of Herbert Spencer, whose ideas on social evolution influenced late 19th and early 20th century thought. Alchian acknowledged the profound influence of Frank Knight, whose distinction between risk and uncertainty provided the conceptual framework for his analysis. Alchian was also clearly influenced by Wesley C. Mitchell's work on business cycles. The evolutionary perspective he adopted mirrored the cyclical patterns of growth and decline in the modern economy. His emphasis on randomness owed a debt to the statistical and probabilistic techniques developed in fields like physics and engineering. These techniques provided the analytical tools to model uncertainty and its effects on economic outcomes. It is interesting to observe that Alchian's work paved the way for later contributions. These contributions included those of Milton Friedman. Friedman's work on methodological positivism, emphasizing observation in economics, complements Alchian's approach. Friedman's analysis of the role of assumptions in economic modeling also drew on the idea that behavior could be examined without perfect knowledge of the underlying mechanisms. The legacy of Alchian's uncertainty, evolution, and economic theory is profound and enduring. His work served as a foundational text for a whole new paradigm in economics. This new paradigm embraced uncertainty, bounded rationality, and evolutionary processes. The direct influence of Alchian's paper is evident in a range of subsequent works. These are works that seek to address questions of strategy, innovation, and market dynamics. His ideas have also informed the development of resource-based view of the firm. This framework posits a competitive advantage derives from the unique capabilities and resources that firms possess. His paper has also spurred research on technological change and industrial dynamics. His ideas helped to develop the idea of path dependence. The study of path dependence examines how past decisions can shape the future in ways that are difficult to predict or control. Alchian's work has found application in fields far removed from economics. These fields include urban planning, environmental science, and even studies of social institutions. Alchian's theory provides a more accurate framework for understanding economic activity and the dynamic nature of markets. In conclusion, Armen Alchian's 1950 paper on uncertainty, evolution, and economic theory represents a pivotal moment in the history of economic thought. His ingenious application of Darwinian principles to the study of firms provided a compelling alternative to the dominant neoclassical paradigm. Alchian's work provided a better understanding of how markets function in a world of incomplete information and unpredictable futures. His insights, which challenged many of the core assumptions of economic theory, opened up new avenues of research and laid the groundwork for a more realistic understanding of economic behavior. His paper demonstrated that, even without perfect knowledge, markets could still generate efficiency. The firms that adapt and embrace change will survive, the rest will fail. Alchian demonstrated that economic systems are not static and deterministic but dynamic and evolutionary. His legacy is seen today in the wide range of theoretical and practical applications his framework has inspired.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.